Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Advocacy Call. Tony, do you want to take it away?
Sure. I hope everyone is doing well. We're finally getting some warm weather, even though it's a little bit rainy. At least we're not complaining about snow, so we are very, very excited about that. Thank you so much to everyone for joining in on this call. Got quite a few things we can talk about today. The first thing is I would like to go over some things going on at the State House. Most everything is revolving around the mid-biennium review budget. So what the mid-biennium review is it is a time, every 2 years the State House, the legislature does a budget, and then during the off years, if the budget is not being worked on, they actually work on it through and correct some things that were done in the 14-15 budget and kind of change some things, make things a little more efficient, those types of things. And this is what happens every year, or every other year as well, every off year of a budget year. So we were concerned about House Bill 472, which contained language including $47.5 million that was going to be allocated for prevention and community housing and all of this type of stuff. What has happened is, as many of these things do during this type of this time, House Bill 472 is really not even getting looked at. Representative Robert Sprague has kind of included that $47.5 million into House Bill 369 through some amendments, which is the Medicaid coverage bill that he proposed a while ago. And so he has taken some of that money, and basically what it is, he wants to clarify behavioral health funding allocations, address potential Medicaid expansion savings shortfalls, all those types of things. Some of the amendments that were put through, that were introduced yesterday to this bill, included the $47.5 million that has been talked about from House Bill 472. And what the amendments would show is the $24.85 million would be allocated to build six regional crisis step-down stabilization units. That would include some recovery housing beds in both rural and urban areas. So basically community housing. So almost $25 million would be for that. $3.75 million would be allocated for mental illness adult daycare support. So those folks that have some mental health issues, that would be some support for the adult daycare. There would be $8.8 million, almost $9 million for each specialty drug court docket to hire 2 case managers. So that would be a statewide initiative to help drug courts across the state. And then kind of more going to prevention, he did leave in the $5 million for the Governor's Start Talking initiative, the prevention campaign that would include some of the prevention stuff that is being done around the state. That is not at all the TANF funds that the governor just released the grants from yesterday. Actually, it was the First Lady's office. So this is separate money. This is $5 million in separate money that would go to the prevention piece, kind of umbrellaed under the Start Talking initiative. Then also there would be $5 million to help with the federal SAPT block grant realignment. I know that some folks are having issues if you receive SAP grant dollars from the federal government, that that has been delayed. There's as much as a 6-month delay in those types of things, in that type of funding stream. So this is $5 million that is going to be given to help with that realignment. So there was some money given to that. This has not been voted on. They're actually thinking of voting on, or they're actually planning on voting on it tomorrow to get it out of committee, and it looks like it has a pretty good chance with all of these pieces added. Marcy and I chatted with Representative Sprague this morning on a call, and we just thanked him for his support of prevention. For the block grant alignment and all of those types of things. He said he very much supports prevention. He very much supports what is going on. Now, what this looks like as far as the $5 million for the Governor Start Talking initiative and the prevention, don't really know what that looks like. I think that would have to be delved into a little bit more by the Governor's office or by the department. But they are leaving that money in for prevention. Some of the things that he also talked about was if some of this money, if the Medicaid expansion money, the savings are not realized, that there would be a priority set for boards to kind of get, I guess, bridge that money if the Medicaid expansion savings fall below 10% of the expected uptake, and he has made that a priority as well. So there's some give and take. There's still this still has to go through another hearing tomorrow in the committee, and then in the full House, and then it has to go through the whole thing, through the whole process again over in the Senate. So this is far from a done deal. But this is what 472 is kind of just on the back burner, and I kind of doubt it ever sees the light of day again, since at least from the prevention standpoint, since this has been rolled into the House Bill 369. So that is something that we continue to keep our eyes on. Would love to hear any feedback or anything that you have on that. Again, this is all kind of today's news. Literally was voted on yesterday. Talked to Sprague today, and then the vote is tomorrow, and then we have to go through the same process with the Senate. House Bill 366, which is a controlled substances bill, basically it is hospice workers. There has to be a point of contact for hospice workers who handle opiates and those kind of prescription pills that are needed for end-of-life issues. The Hospice Association is not really in favor of this bill because they find some problems with someone being a point person for all of those drugs. They're not there 24 hours a day. People wandering in and out of the house because, saying, giving their last goodbyes or daily visits or whatever it is, that people go in and out of houses for, especially during those times. It's a very rough time for folks, so there is some opposition to it. It did pass committee yesterday, and they're looking. Then they will continue to look forward to that in the Senate. So it's passed the House. It's in the Senate now. The first hearing, I think, is tomorrow in Senate Health and Human Services Committee. So they will start that process again. Talking with Representative Sprague, he did say that there are going to be additional pieces that that he wants to look at as far as control of those of opiates, the supply, that he would deal mainly with doctors and hospitals, physicians, those types of things, to kind of cut down on the supply of pills that are out there. So that is that's his next step in addressing this opiate issue. House Bill 232 also just wanted to, this is one of the few bills that are kind of going through that are not budget related. It's the professional counselors bill. It was actually voted out. The Senate, or the House concurred with the Senate amendments last week to make sure that Professional counselors could, it'd be an easier time for those folks to be accredited in Ohio and start practice here. So that was voted out and should be going to the governor's signature, or governor's desk for signature in the next few weeks. So that is basically what's going on at State House. Everything's budget, 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 and hopefully we will be through this process soon. And for the first time that I can ever remember, and this goes back to the Mrs. Taft days, prevention is really getting on legislators' radars, and we're just absolutely thrilled with that. So I'm going to let Derek talk a little bit about we had an alcohol policy summit last week, and he's going to give a short overview about how that went. So Derek, take it away.
We did have the Midwest Alcohol Policy Summit last week, and this was a wonderful collaboration of not only our 9 partner state members of the planning committee, but it resulted in over 300 attendees, including 26 states. So it was something that was much larger than we anticipated, certainly in terms of attendance and really the broadening of looking at the Midwest and really the 26 states that go far and beyond the Midwest. We had representation from Connecticut to California, so we really were coast to coast, which was really neat to have that opportunity to network and connect. If you weren't able to attend the summit, or if you did attend the summit and you weren't able to attend all the sessions, because with the breakouts, we had up to 8 breakout sessions at any given time. What we will do is on the website, under drugfreeactionalliance.org/maps, which should be on your screen now, we have the presentations for the presenters that submitted them to us, and we'll be continuing to add those. But as you scroll down on the title page there is the agenda for the summit, and we've got the concurrent sessions hyperlinked. So if you just click on the hyperlink, then that will show what sessions were available during that time. And for those that have submitted their presentations or other information, you can just select the presentation and their information will load. So you can still review that information, particularly if you weren't able to attend the conference or if there was another session that you weren't able to attend. We had a very dedicated group. There was 2 other conferences that were occurring at the same time. And on April 2nd, the first day of the actual summit, we had April 1st was our pre-conference, then April 2nd, April 3rd was the summit. The afternoon of April 2nd, we had a power outage that was not only the hotel, but the surrounding area. The other 2 groups folded up shop and went home, where we stayed the course. Every one of our presenters continued to go along with their breakout presentation, and we proceeded as normal. So I think that just speaks to the dedication of the field that we have, as well as the interest in really addressing alcohol policy from not only a state level in Ohio with the legislative education days we do, or these monthly advocacy calls, but also really looking at kind of positioning Ohio and Drug Free Action Alliance as the front runner in the state related to alcohol policy. So we did a phenomenal job at recruitment and getting the most knowledgeable experts in the country there to talk about alcohol policy. So hopefully we'll see a lot more things coming from that. But all in all, it was a phenomenal event, and thank you for those that attended, and for those that didn't attend, hopefully this will be give you a little kick to get you moving there the next time, because we hope to do it again, if not next year, then at least in the years to come at some point. So that's all that I have.
Thank you so much, Derek. It was a truly outstanding event. Saw some of you there, and was really, really excited to see you. And I think it was just it was the cream of the crop as far as presenters. It was just really, really great information given, kind of updating everybody on the latest up-to-date information surrounding alcohol. So really, really a thrilling event. Derek did an absolutely outstanding job in coordinating that, and we are over the moon about how well it went, and the feedback that we have gotten from not only in-state but also out of state. Great job, Derek. And if you weren't able to attend, I tell you what, you missed a heck of a time with a lot of great information. Moving on to our favorite subject, weed. Got some marijuana news. Just updating folks on that. The Ohio Cannabis Rights Amendment, which is the amendment that's floating around there to try to put medical marijuana on the ballot this year for the November ballot. Right now, they have about 58,000 signatures. That is out of the 385,000, a little over 385,000 they're going to need. They also have $65,000 in the bank, so they are starting to hire signature gatherers at $1 a signature. So this will, if they spent down their entire bank account, that'd be 65,000 more signatures, which is still far short of the 385,000. The majority, they're getting money basically from folks who are, Las Vegas seems to be where they're getting some donations from for whatever reason. Seems to be private folks out there. Also California, and then some in-state, smaller givers. So that's why they do have the 65K. Do I really see this happening? They have to get the 385,000 signatures from or before July 2nd. So really, do I see it happening? Quite frankly, I don't see it happening this year. So what would they do? Do you think they'll shoot for 2015? Not in an off-year election. I think it's more of a 16 thing. That's when the national folks said they're kind of earmarking Ohio to be to start putting the big money in to the state to legalize marijuana for medicinal use. Does this mean we take the foot off the pedal? Well, you know what? Maybe we aren't going 70. Maybe we can go 55. This just gives us 2 years to 2 more years to keep this off of the ballot, which is the ultimate, to me, the ultimate goal. I personally, I tell people this when I do presentations. I think the longer that we have to hold off on this, the more chances that Colorado will implode. It's not going well there right now at all. Still, 50% of the weed that is being sold out there in Colorado, over 50%, it's almost 60%, is still black market because the taxes are high. There's a 25% tax. So people don't want to pay the taxes, so they go to their dealer, their former dealer, and they get it. They get it there right now. From what I understand, a weed or an ounce of marijuana in Colorado, the high end stuff is about $400 an ounce, and you can get the same stuff for about $286 from a street dealer. So it's not canceling at all the black market. Employers are starting to really wake themselves up to this. There are more and more articles coming out about employer concerns, employer issues. In the Colorado Supreme Court, they're getting ready to hear the case of Brandon Coates, who is a person fired for medical marijuana purposes, and he was fired by Dish Network, the TV provider, and the satellite provider, and basically he's lost every appeal, Brandon Coates has, but now it's in the Colorado Supreme Court, a wrongful firing that if it's legal in this state, he should be legally able to basically have it in his system at work. This is really causing an awful lot of problems for workers' comp, all of those types of things. The Michigan, where employers have been losing is Michigan. Michigan, and they have been losing for the discrimination lawsuits. They've been losing unemployment compensation claims. So the Michigan Chamber of Commerce has starting to lobby the governor because this is such an issue up there in the state up north that they're trying to get marijuana to be an excuse basically to be fired so that employers wouldn't have to pay unemployment. Again, this is a big issue up there, and there seems to be some ground about getting the unemployment compensation overturned. Again, do I really see things happening in Ohio? I think it is, quite frankly, a testament to what you guys are doing in the field. The way that you guys are educating, the way educating your folks. Had a great call yesterday with Summit County. Jim Ryan and I, Jim Ryan from Adapo and I, had a great call with Summit County yesterday that, you know, just kind of giving them, you know, kind of what's happening now and an overview about some of our concerns. That doesn't mean that they've taken a position one way or the other. I don't want to misstate that. But it was a good call, and again, it's all about educating these folks on what this means to communities. Also, news stories that are coming out, and you know, I will keep forwarding those through the Blunt Truth newsletter. If you're not getting that, let Derek or I know. Poor Derek. Let us know, and we will make sure that you're on that mailing list. What they're doing nationally, the marijuana folks, is they're basically concentrating on full legalization for Alaska and Oregon. They see those as two of the easier states to get their legalization pieces passed in, so they're concentrating on those. However, Alaska is now, the last update I got last week was Alaska is actually about 48-48. So they're tied on whether to legalize marijuana for their state. So it's interesting because a few months ago it was like 54-43. So they have had a kind of an uptick on people saying, wait a second, we really don't want to be like Colorado. Interestingly enough, Colorado, actually, they did a survey of Colorado citizens, and over 60% said that marijuana hurts the image of the state. So they voted in. Now they don't like the image they're getting. Also, sadly, it was a pretty highly publicized death. There was a young man from the University of Wyoming that went down to visit Denver, Colorado, had one of a pot brownie, was intoxicated on marijuana, fell over a ledge, fell out of over a ledge out of a balcony, and died from his fall. The death certificate does list marijuana intoxication as being part of the as what led to this young man's death. Now, did he die of an overdose? No. But because of his intoxication, it did lead to his falling, according to the coroner out there. I already talked a little bit about the business concerns that are taking place across across not only Colorado but nationally. So many more businesses are starting to open up, or starting to wake up to this idea that this is not a good idea for a safe workplace. It's not a good idea for a productive workplace. So the work you're doing with businesses, I think, is definitely also taking effect. And then finally, what is another piece nationally, there's quite a few of these CBD bills. They call them medical marijuana bills, but what they are they're bills where they legalize what's called cannabinoid, the cannabinoid oil in the state to help these young kids with Dravet syndrome, these seizure conditions, all of that kind of stuff. There is a great piece on learnaboutsam.org, and again, it's learnaboutsam.org, about the CBDs and the cannabinoids. There is actually already a drug that is being tested in human trials now on these types of children called Epidiolex. It's a drug where the CBD, the actual component from marijuana that seems to be helping these young people with their seizures, can actually be dispensed through the, and it's going through the FDA process now. Again, it's in human trials. There's about 100 families that actually can get this this drug called Epidiolex, and so it is something that is pretty close to being locked up. That those kids could be able to get a drug that has been tested, that is actually not smoked marijuana. It's not marijuana from some guy who grows it in a field or in his backyard. It's in a controlled setting, and that's where the problem lies. Is that some of the CBD bills are opening it up not only to what's called Charlotte's Web, which is the strand of marijuana that seems to help these kids. It's high CBD. But then you've got also opportunists who say that it's Charlotte's Web, and it's actually not. It doesn't have this high CBD, and it actually causes more seizures in the kids because THC seems to trigger seizures in young people. I know it's kind of confusing, but there is the thing on the Learn About Sam, the piece, is absolutely the best thing that you can have. There's also consideration of this CBD bill being introduced in Ohio. Of course, our buddy up in Mahoning County, thank you, Angie McClellan, is talking with Representative Lynn Watchman to get one of these CBD bills passed in Ohio. We're going to continue to educate folks, especially in the legislature, about about Epidiolex, about the dangers that kind of surround this drug, especially when it's kind of just grown in somebody's backyard. So that might be introduced in Ohio between the Democrat Bob Hagan and the Republican Lynn Watchman. So we will continue to monitor that and update folks as it goes along. So we got a couple of minutes if anybody has any questions or any comments, anything they would like to announce. I know in a couple weeks we'll be having our We're the Majority Rally, all the kids. We hope to see you there April 30th. We got about 1,300 young people registered from across the state that will be coming down. We have some rap star Mario. I don't know who he is. If it's not Kid and Play from back in the 80s, I don't know who the guy is. Are there any questions or anything?
We don't have any questions right now, just a comment from Angela, and just as a sidebar related back to the gathering of signatures for the ballot initiative related to marijuana, she said that her son is a Bearcat at the University of Cincinnati, and he sent her a picture last month. The OCRA sign-up table was in the middle of campus, and absolutely no one was in line to sign up. So I thought that was an interesting observation.
Love that, Angie. That is a great. That's a great feedback. So thank you so much.
And one of those pieces along to the sign-up is they are kind of targeting college campuses, which is a very transient environment. So that's going to be even more difficult for the signature gatherers to get valid signatures, since students tend to move quite frequently. So that's another thing, that while they're targeting campuses where they might get more signatures, the validity of those signatures might be limited. Eileen Keller said Operation Street Smart in Wayne County or College Orville is 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. has a free seat use offered in the evening from 7 to 8:30 for the community. So there is a community-wide training that will be available there in Orville, and for Operation Street Smart. And for those of you who haven't seen it, it's pretty phenomenal to see the information there, really learn from the officers to see what some of the trends that they have, and just get a fuller understanding of what drugs are occurring in your community. From Mary, what does the scientific study prove about marijuana being a gateway to other drugs?
Actually, there's a study. There was a study that from Yale that actually showed that young people who start with marijuana have a much greater likelihood of going to the harder drugs, the opiates, the cocaine, all of those, the meth. So there are some studies there. They pro-pot people claim, oh, it's not a gateway drug and all of that kind of stuff. And I've even been on calls where they've said that, and that's quite frankly completely false. There are studies that show that over and over. We had a meeting last week with the head of adolescent health at Nationwide Children's Hospital, and he said about 70% of his kids that go in for that come in for opiate treatment started with marijuana. The other 30% start with alcohol. So we're getting this from doctors all over. And again, the Yale study is a great study that shows that that is absolutely a gateway type of situation, marijuana to harder drugs.
And Angela had another comment that in their area they target flea markets and plazas in the poorer parts of town as a target area to get more people engaged in signing up.
Yeah, they're all over. Zoos seem to be another place. I don't know why they like zoos, but they go to zoos.
For those interested in the Operation Street Smart training that Eileen is hosting on April 17th, you can register by calling her at 330-804-4206 or Keller E at steps-ewh.org. Again, her phone number is 330-804-4206, and her email is kellere@steps-ewh.org. Next question from Eileen. Tony, do you have the study from Ohio State about the 70% of people say they don't have enough information related to marijuana as medicine?
No, I do not. I have not heard of the one from Ohio State. So if you have that, that would be fantastic. I would love to see it.
So, Eileen, if you could send that to Tony, we'd greatly appreciate it, and we can mention it in the next call. We have our upcoming events that are located on our calendar at drugfreeactionalliance.org/upcoming-events. So be sure to check those out. As Tony mentioned, we have our youth rally coming up at the end of the month, and we have our program webinar today focused on scare tactics at 1 o'clock, and then the GAP Network will be May 13th at 1 o'clock, which will be following the next month's advocacy webinar that will also be at 1 o'clock. That appears to be all the questions that we have for now. If you have any additional needs, please feel free to contact Tony at 614-540-9985, extension 17, or tcoder at drugfreeactionalliance.org. Thank you so much, everyone.